hadn't responded to Fani's interview that she did, not interview, but questioning. Yeah, we'll do that, and that way we could actually draw dots too, and connect the dots on this whole case here stuff. Like this whole thing is super important, especially now. I'm telling y'all, because this election is coming up. All these things, all this stuff done in the dark is being revealed because it's time for the change. You know what I mean? Like in history, we've gone through cycles of different presidencies where it be the Republicans in charge. Then we go through cycles when it's the Democrats' turn. And whenever it's time for it to switch over power, you'll see that all kind of information will be coming out, and the exposure and stuff starts to happen to make more people outraged at it. So it kind of helps to encourage people to vote a certain way, you know. So so anyway, I'm just happy that this here is happening too, because it just, you know, gives credit to what I was saying earlier when I was saying how we need to get political, and this is going to help us to get the justice and stuff like that we were seeking from you know, for people, for victims and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and set up our next video. Let me move it over here. Yay. And uh-oh. Let me see here. I'm messing up here. All right, here we go. Oh, all right. So, all right, we're going to go over this here, and I'll point out the body language and the lies and stuff like that too, which we can go back and show how liars, they do the same thing, right? They do the same thing, but if you stick to the truth and the facts, the math and science, that's how you're able to, you know, get it right all the times. But a lot of times these liars are real good at distracting, distracting you to where you get confused and forget about what the actual, what really was going on and stuff too. Okay, so we're gonna go over here. For anybody who don't know, this Fani Willis is the DA in Fulton County, Georgia, and she has a history of doing some, you know, pretty vicious stuff, you know, and mishandling, misappropriating funds and different things like that, and firing people who try to speak out against the truth and stuff. So this personality spirit is in, you know, a lot of people. So a lot of times we can check different personalities and stuff like that by people's behavior. And the good thing about this whole social media thing is that people's behaviors are playing out right in front of us, so we could look at them and analyze them and be able to, you know, pick out how to tell when somebody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. So here we go. This here is her testimony. Is real good. Now she is the district attorney, like I said, and what the facts are is that she hired a guy she was having an affair with, a married man, to prosecute President Trump on some stuff, right? So anyway, it was they're trying to disqualify her from the case because of this inappropriate relationship that she didn't disclose with the taxpayers, and that she was benefiting from paying him a lot of money and stuff like that. So, and also I tie in there too, like I was telling y'all before, when I remember, I think it was probably about a year ago, there was, I think 5 Black police officers beat to death this one Black guy. I can't remember the name. But anyway, how they are trying to hurt us by making us emotional by using things like racism and things like that. So Black people, most of us get emotional when we hear that somebody's racist and stuff, right? That's the quickest way to just shake us off of any type of foundation that we could be trying to build to, take back our freedom and stuff, and stop being led and manipulated, right? So a lot of times, we have to make sure that we're not just responding emotionally, that we are critically thinking, right? So we can make some real changes and stuff. Okay, so without further ado, we're gonna play this, and I'm gonna show y'all the obvious parts when she's lying and stuff like that.
District Attorney Fani, Fani, last name is Willis. Ms. Willis.
So you can see here how nervous she is. Like she's, look at her respirations, breathing really fast and stuff. She's worried.
How did you know to come into the courtroom right then? There were people I was pacing in my office. Okay. And I heard someone yell, "His testimony is done." It only made sense to me that I would be your next witness. And I've been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So
see, she's using her lawyer tactics here to, try to ascertain control over the thing, right?
Ran to the courtroom.
So as soon as you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
See, like now she's being being sarcastic. She's actually, trying to bully the attorney that's questioning her, right? She's being defiant. It only makes sense.
Did you listen to any of the testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am. Look at her. She has an attitude. She's outraged. How dare you look at me? Look at me. We're supposed to be prosecuting the president over here. Don't be looking at what I'm doing.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
See, now she's trying to act like she's outraged and accusing her of lying. And a lot of narcissists do this where they will project what they're doing onto you. So she's lying.
All right. So that was it. Just the argument. No testimony.
Right. I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued. But since it did, here I am.
Right. So
see, it's facial twitching. She's got twitching in the face. She is pissed. She's pissed that she is now in this seat.
Let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade? And
did y'all see her squint? Pull it back just a little bit. Look at her face. Watch her squint.
Words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation.
Oh.
As you know, Ms.
Went the wrong way.
Did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
All right. So that was it. Just the argument. No testimony.
Right. I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday.
See how she's trying to put it back on her?
I'm actually
it's a narcissist move right here.
Since it did, here I am.
You lie.
Right. So let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade?
She's pissed. How dare you ask me about this? She's mad.
To him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you.
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about, I probably had some choice words about some.
Now she's not answering the question. She's just making it be known how outraged she was at this whole motion and stuff. But she's not telling her what she did to prepare for the case, which is the question that she asked. What did you do to prepare for this case?
Some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion.
See how she keep trying to throw it on there? You said all this stuff. You was being dishonest, right? Look at her. She's scared and angry.
So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
Okay, but my question was, did you have a conversation with
I didn't
him?
have a substantive conversation.
You did not.
I read this motion, skimmed it more so, and
How dismissive she's being with it. I've read this, you know, I mean, she's dismissing it because she's the DA. How dare you? And this is her courtroom, like this is her area, right? So these people are on her turf and they got her behind in this hot seat here. And she don't like that.
probably said some choice things to him about some of the lies that were told. And then printed in the media because, you know, we used to be in a day and time where you had 60 Minutes and people did stories and they verified information, and you had this great reporting. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see.
It says, Fani Willis, Fulton County District Attorney, facing allegations she financially benefited from her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade. Willis admits she had a personal relationship with Wade, but denies wrongdoing. Wow.
Well, I just want to make sure that you answered the question I asked, though. So my question was,
Overruled, Mr. Body.
I told you what happened. I read the motion. I am sure I told him what my opinion of it is. And past that, we had no substantive conversation.
you did not.
Is there something you didn't understand?
No, I just want to make sure that
Okay.
you did not have a meeting with him in the conference room to discuss the
All
motion.
right, next question,
No.
Ms. Merchant.
So in the conference room of my office within this week, you produced some financial document. That financial document was given to me.
Look at her.
And I'm not even sure who's giving it to him by
Like,
name.
yeah, go ahead and lie. Now she's digging her own hole because she's trying to explain everything. Remember how I was telling y'all about how you could tell when somebody a lie? Like a lie needs an explanation. A lie needs for you to set the stage, to set the scene, so you can hear how you want people to, what perception you want them to get.
Or Mr. Abadi gave it to me. And I think he showed me a document in our conference room. But as far as a substantive conversation, I don't believe I've had any.
I don't believe I have. See, that's how you can disguise the lie. Like, listen to the words that she's using. She's like word salad all up in here, right? So this way, it's not like it was a lie. I said, I don't believe I had, you know what I mean? But I didn't say that we didn't have a conversation. I don't believe. Right? See how she
Conversation with him
lawyer
that is substantive related to this.
Okay.
I have had conversations with him since you filed the motion, but they wouldn't be substantive to this. He sent me very nice sermons that have been done. And so we've had conversations about, did you listen to that sermon? You know, things.
Too much information. That's how you can tell these are lies. Too much information, too much details. This is just a hearing, right? But she's trying to set out the whole case here.
Of that nature. And I would say they were in relationship to this because I think he did it to be kind.
Let's start back in 2019.
Mhm.
So you and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at a conference?
That is correct. And I think in one of your motions, you tried to implicate I slept with him at that conference, which I find to be extremely.
I see how this is the distraction right here. See, now you take offense, right? These are super moves that most narcissists do. And a lot of these attorneys be narcissists low key and stuff, especially these vicious ones that use their power to, control and to hurt people with and stuff, right? Because it's some videos of her listening to a whistleblower and then actually terminating that whistleblower shortly after them blowing the whistle.
Offensive. I stayed at that conference. Mr. Wade was my teacher. I did not meet him when he taught the class. I was standing outside talking to Lisa Reed, who was a judge. Me and her were just having a conversation. Mr. Wade walks up and they hug each other. They have some brief conversation. She introduces us.
Your Honor, I'm going to object.
Thank you.
When you ask a question, you can answer the question.
Look how fast you're breathing up.
I agree.
I'm able to explain my answers.
I believe she's able to explain her answers.
And
That's Ms. Merchant. That's okay. I can handle it. Ms. Willis, I'll ask you to just listen to the answer, or excuse me, the question, and keep the answers confined to the question as best you can. I think you'll have more than enough ample opportunity on when the state was
Well,
able
it's
to
highly
follow
offensive
up.
when someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try to implicate that you.
See how she keep trying to go back in there and gain control over this thing here by bringing up the fact and accusing Merchant of lying.
Slept with somebody the first day you met with them, and I take exception to it.
All right. Well, Ms. Willis, she'll have the opportunity to explain all of that when it's the state's turn to ask more open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Ms. Merchant.
Thank you, Judge. So again, my question was, you all met at that conference, though, right?
We did the
Okay.
meeting. He, as I stated, he taught the class. I did not actually meet him when he taught the class. I walked out of the class, and I'm not sure if it was that exact class or we had went to lunch, but we were standing in the vestibule outside of the class. Me and Judge Reeves were having a conversation.
DC throwing all these other names and stuff out there too, because she feels like she should be above any of this here reproach, above it.
I worked at a law firm I worked at back in 1996.
We're getting way afar. I mean, I don't mind her explaining her answers, but I literally just asked if they met at that
She's
conference.
explaining how she met Mr. Wade, which was exactly the question asked by Ms. Merchant.
It was
These answers are more than appropriate.
Ms. Merchant, if you want more concise answers, perhaps you could lead the witness.
I will. Thank you, Judge. Isn't it true that you met Mr. Wade October 2019 at the judges
He
conference?
hasn't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated hostile in this situation.
I think we
And
have.
I'm very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be
Not
here.
so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Thank you.
Merchants' interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
Mm.
All right, let's
Judge, I
proceed.
would just ask that
We
we.
can keep things moving. Ms. Merchant,
Thank you.
next question,
Thank
please.
Okay, so we've confirmed when you met. After that, isn't it true?
No, I need to explain this, and I think I get to explain my answers. When I met him, Judge Reeves introduced us.
Mm.
He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help,
At all.
give me a call. And he walked to the parking lot.
Too many
So
details.
after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
A lie. That's one of your lies.
Wow.
Do you know Robin Yurdy?
I know her as Robin Bryant. I knew her. So Robin did not go to my college. She went to the college.
Look at all this extra information.
Howard University. She went to Morgan State.
See, like, look, listen, this is how you can tell she's lying. She's telling a story here. All this. She's asking her simple questions that's like mostly yes or no, you know.
I met her through some people I knew. In college, we hung out a bit, not much because she was in Baltimore and I was in Washington, D.C. But we hung out a bit. After college, I lost contact with her. I probably didn't see Robin again until maybe 7 or 8 years ago, a chance meeting here in Atlanta. But we did not have a consistent relationship from when I left college and came to Emory Law School here in Atlanta. But 8 to 10 years ago, just by happenstance, I ran into her. So she was in Atlanta.
You have been friends with Robin for 30-something years.
Did you hear my answer, madam?
Wow.
And I'm asking if you've been friends with her for 30-something years.
I've known her for 30-something years.
Mhm.
We certainly hung out and partied together in college. She was from the DC area. She would come home and party together. Wasn't close, but she was certainly in the girlfriends that partied together. And then, like I said, I ran into her about 10 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. But
So
we didn't talk throughout that time period. I didn't see her. I didn't even know where she was. When I ran into her, I was surprised she was in Atlanta. And so, yes, I have known her probably since 1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
for the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to classify it as, have you been friends with her?
I have not spoken to Robin in over a year. I certainly do not.
See, notice how she still didn't answer the question. She just keeps talking with more story. I've known her for this, that, and the other, but she didn't say yes or no. These are yes or no questions that she's being asked. But she's with all this story, and this is how liars do to try to keep control over the situation. So,
Not consider her a friend now. I think that she, there's a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think that she betrayed our friendship.
So let's narrow it down, the timeline now. So my questions are going to be from the time period of 2019 until she no longer was employed for you, the last time you all talked. So all of my next questions are just focused on that time frame, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Up until she left your office.
Yes, ma'am.
During 2019, you all were friends, correct?
Yes, we knew each other in 2019.
During 2020, you all were friends, correct?
We were friends during that time period.
During 2021, you all were friends, correct?
Yes.
And such good friends that when you needed a place to stay, you asked her if you could take over her lease.
That's a lie.
You did
That's
not
not
move
the-
into her apartment?
I
or her
did, but
condo?
that's not the way you characterize it is wrong.
I asked if you could take over her lease.
I did not ask if I could take over her lease.
Did you move into her apartment?
I moved into her condo in April.
so the attorney merchant, she's not really good with the questions. You can tell that, she also is an experienced attorney, so she knows how to answer and the different words to put in there. So it may not be perceived as telling a lie.
Of 21. The circumstances around that were that Robin met her husband. They wanted to move into another and separate place. She wanted to get rid of her condo. My father was living with me at the house. Because of this case and because of my stance on gangs, my life was being threatened regularly. My father urged me to leave our home. At the same time, as luck would have it, Robin wanted to give up her lease because she wanted to move in with this new man she met, who eventually became her husband. And so as life circumstances worked, my dad was begging me to leave the house. He was afraid for me, afraid for his grandchildren. She wanted someone to take over her lease so that she didn't, have to pay a fee or get abandoned. And so I don't remember when, but probably March or April of 21, I moved in and take over her lease.
And did you pay her or did you pay the leasing agent?
No, I don't even know who the leasing agent was. I paid her.
You paid her. Did you pay her cash or did you use the card?
There were some times that I would give her cash, but mostly I paid her via Cash App. That would be the most convenient thing. So I would not only give her her rent, but then like when the utilities would come in, whatever the utility was, she might be like, I need $70. I need
Okay, now she is talking now freely because she not realizing that the questions, when these attorneys asking you questions, they pretty much already know what the answer is, right? So she's kind of allowing her to dig a little hole here. She's establishing the fact of her making these cash payments, but through an app, a way to be traced. Like every payments that she made to this lady were traceable with cash apps, with the cash app application, right? It was a way to trace the money because Cash App's going to show that the money came from the bank to this app, and you were able to pay somebody with. So this is a way that they're showing that you have always traced the money that you've been using, right? And she's not even realizing that when she later on say that she's paying Mr. Wade with all these boatloads of cash that she just kept at around the house, it doesn't make sense that why are you paying the other lady, with traceable
$100, whatever it was. And we never had a problem with money. Whatever she told me it was, I never asked to see a bill. I never questioned her. I just gave it to her.
What percentage would you say you paid cash versus Cash App?
Oh, the vast majority was Cash App. I don't know what percentage, I'm not going to guess that, but the vast majority was Cash App. But there would be times she would say, this bill came in at $70. Here goes $70.
Did you have a monthly rent amount that you paid her?
I can't remember. It was $1,500. I can't remember what it was. And it would vary, which I don't understand to this day. But like I said, I never questioned her.
When did you
Whatever
move
she
out?
said it was, that's what I paid.
When did
I
you move out?
abruptly moved out in February,
Woo!
late January,
That's
or
fun.
early February of 22.
Ooh.
Of 22.
Yes,
February 2022, is that what you said?
January, February of
Okay.
22. I
The best.
believe it is January, but I paid her half the rent of February of 22 is what I remember. And because I was offering to pay the whole rent, even though I didn't live there, I didn't think it was right. And I ended up just paying her half the rent.
So that's after you moved out. You said you paid her half of that. Okay. And the time that you said you had to move out of your house because you were scared, did your dad stay there at your house?
My father was concerned. Yes, we were both concerned.
Okay. But he remained there.
My father was 80 years old. He would have been 79. He was scared to death of COVID. You have to go back to when this was. My father's an older man. I wanted him to move out. We had some discussions about him moving out. And what he decided was the risk of COVID was more dangerous than the risk of people that were threatening.
2021, we
Typical
wasn't
man,
tripping that
more
hard.
worried about his daughter and his grandchildren than his own safety. You'll get to meet him and you'll understand he doesn't scare too easily.
She's already knowing that her dad's testimony is all staged. So you'll get to meet him. So she's setting the scene to let you know why she's explaining everything. So it makes sense to why she had the cash, because y'all about to meet him, because my dad about to let y'all know why, I get to do the cash thing. I'm daddy's girl, and this is how this going down.
So your his grandkids were living at the house as well at that time?
Well, I don't know how old your children are, but when you have adult children, they leave and they come back. They leave and they come back. So there have been periods of time that they're there, they come, they do whatever they want to do. Children do what children do. As long as their mother has a house, they'll come to it. Unfortunately, now the threats because of this case have gotten so extreme. I just pay a mortgage and no one lives there.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So when you moved out in, I think you said April 2021, you left your dad and your two kids at the house?
My dad and my two kids were not at the house. No.
They were not. Okay, so they didn't still live at your house?
My youngest daughter certainly did not live there.
Okay.
My oldest daughter would.
First, she said her dad was too scared of COVID to leave the house. So she's like, here's a lie. She just said now the dad and the children weren't at the house. But just 2 breaths ago, father 79 and was extremely worried about COVID. So he didn't want to leave. Now, she just said that her dad and her children weren't at her house. They were not there.
Come back and forth. I can't say month for month when she was there or when she was not there. I know that she has been there post me moving out. At this time, no one is at my house.
So at some point after you moved out for the safety reasons, at least one of your children did come
Ms.
back. to the
Merchant, can we
house.
get to either the
Yeah.
relationship or the
Sure.
financial benefit?
Yes. Let's see, we were back at 2021. So you were still friends with Miss Yeardy then. Were you also friends with Mr. Bradley?
I've never been friends with Mr. Bradley.
You've never been friends with Mr. Bradley?
No, I don't consider us to be friends. I don't dislike Mr. Bradley, but
don't see more story there, right?
consider us to be friends.
Is he someone that you would have in your phone and you would message with?
I might have text messaged him.
Would you text message him and Mr. Wade on the same conversations?
I don't recall doing that, but if it happened, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so that wouldn't surprise you, the three of you. Okay. How frequently would you think that the three of you would have texted?
Not very. I wouldn't think very often, but you're asking me to recall. I don't even know what time period you're asking me to recall, but I'm not going to speak to that because I just really don't know the answer to that. So I don't want to speculate as to how often that would happen. But it's not out of my practice to text two people on one text message. So if you told me that happened and showed it to me, it wouldn't surprise me, although I have no recollection of it.
But there would be some record
No
of it,
recollection.
or the phone records would have some record of those texts.
Perhaps.
That's how you can do the lie and get away with it when you just say, I have no recollection of it, right? So you can't prove that I don't remember this or not. And I didn't say that it didn't happen. So it's not technically a lie. Real smart.
Talk about, you said that sometimes you paid Miss Yurdi cash.
I don't
When
think
you
I-
went,
I'm sorry.
sorry, when you went on vacation with Mr. Wade, let's just go one by one. Let's start with the first one. What's the first time you went on vacation with Mr. Wade?
I think the first time we went on vacation was around April of 22. And it's a vacation is a stretch, but I'm trying to be comprehensive. I recall April of 22. His birthday is March the 18th. So that would have been his 49th birthday. I took him to like Tennessee for the day. I think we went to a museum. I think we might have stayed the night. I'm not sure. But I mean, Tennessee's kind of hard to call a vacation, but I just am trying to be inclusive. And it, like I said, I know it wasn't more than a day.
See how she's giving more details and stuff, just details, but still not really answering the question. But she's painting a picture, so this is her way of being able to verify her statement, so they can be more believable.
She didn't spend the night.
I think that we did. That's what I'm telling you. I think that there's a possibility that we stayed that night.
I think again, so there's a possibility.
April of 22.
Who paid for the hotel?
I think I did. It was his birthday.
And would you have used a credit card?
Probably maybe a debit.
Uh-oh.
When I started dating Mr. Wade, it was right around then. That
April 2022?
22. Yes, it
2022.
was 20. It's not like when you're in grade school and you send a little letter and it says, "Will you be my girlfriend?" and you check it. I don't know the day that we started seeing each other, but it was early 22 is my recollection.
Okay, early 22. And you all went to Florida on vacation as well?
I don't recall going to Florida on vacation with him.
You never went to Florida with Mr. Wade?
When we went to get on the cruise ship, we went to Miami.
Okay, that's the only time that you went to Florida with him?
I think we went to Miami and spent the night. That's my recollection.
Okay.
I think we spent the night. That's my recollection.
Okay.
I think we spent one night so that we wouldn't miss the ship. That's my recollection of our
Paid for that hotel.
She thinks.
in Miami. I don't remember that.
And how'd you get to Miami?
We would have flown. And we've done that, so that I'm clear, we've done that twice. I think one time we stayed, and I honestly can't tell you, did we stay when the ship left or did we stay when the ship came back? I also can't tell you.
Out there.
So
So, let me be clear. I don't know if it was this or if it was that, right? This is how you could tell these are lies, because the truth doesn't need explaining. The truth doesn't need an explanation. It just is.
there's 2 cruises out of Miami. There's one that's in that October time period that was with his mom. And then there was another that was a New Year's Eve trip. I know I paid for the New Year's Eve trip because the tickets were $697 each. And I thought, this is ridiculous that the tickets are $700 to go to Miami. But when you travel during New Year's Eve, they get you.
So let's just back up and talk about the first time that you went to Florida with Mr. Wade. That was the time that you said you stayed in Miami at the hotel the first night?
That's the time I told you, I am not sure. So I'm not sure of 2 things. So I want to make sure that my testimony is clear. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the October trip. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the December trip. I just can't remember that. And I also don't remember, so that the record is clear. I don't remember if the necessity was as we got on the ship or we got off the ship. But I do remember there was a night spent in Miami.
That's how you could tell these are lies, because if you don't remember something, how do you know that you don't remember it? But I do remember this, but I don't remember that. She hasn't even been asked any questions. Either. This is her story.
Because either whatever. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I think that there was
Whatever.
a night
I
in Miami.
don't remember.
That cruise is the one that you took in October, right?
Ma'am, if you have something to refresh my recollection, I'm intentionally trying to not be difficult with you, but I don't want to make up something.
Right.
I know that on one of those 2 trips, we stayed in Miami. I am not sure right now. You're asking me about.
Oh, I'm sorry, you misunderstood. I was not asking you which night you stayed in Miami. I'm asking if you took a cruise in October 2022 with Mr. Wade.
Yes, and his mom.
And
See how she keep being distraction by answering something else with a whole big story? This is what liars do to distract you. So now we're talking about this, right? Instead of the facts.
his mother, that's what I was asking.
Yes,
Is that the first time you met his mother?
yes.
It was on that cruise, and that was Royal Caribbean, I believe?
I honestly don't remember what ship. I know we've taken 2 cruises. I don't know what the ships were.
But he paid for the flight and the cruise on Royal Caribbean that time.
So yes, he paid. He is the original one that does it. He has something called Mr. Wade is a world.
Now remember, she had just said that she had bought the tickets and she paid. Now he's paid.
Traveler. I'm not as versed as him. He's been to 6 of the 7 continents.
Because remember, she was outraged that the tickets, was almost $700 each. So she supposedly paid, right? Now the tables are turning and now he's paid. This is how you could tell also when someone's lying, because the truth doesn't change. Liars are constantly repurposing the story to make it sound more truthful. So now she has to change the story. So when she introduces that she's paid him back with the cash, now it's more believable. But liars lose track of the different stories they tell, because most of the time they are telling them as they get confronted with it, with the truth. So then they'll come back with a new lie to counter.
And so he has both a personal travel agent and he also has a cruise travel agent. I don't know anything about either of those kind of travel agents. So he is the one that would book the travel. But we need to be clear when we're talking about just because he booked it doesn't mean, I don't consider him having taken me anyplace. Let me just be honest. The only one that's ever taken somebody someplace is for his 50th birthday. I consider that I took him to Belize. And I took him to Belize because, I don't want to discuss his personal business, but I'm happy Mr. Wade is still here with us. And I did 50 days.
His personal business, but let me just put it out here that, he had this terminal, he has some problems there, right? Look at her face. This lion heifer.
Very big.
So still on that October Royal Caribbean cruise, even though he had a travel agent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude.
If you do me a favor, I don't know what cruise ship, what time. So if you'll help me and say October cruise with Mama or the New Year's Eve trip with his sisters, I'll be able to, we can communicate. I just don't know what ship.
Wait, so now sisters were involved in it too. See how more and more people is getting added to the story. So it sounds more like it was just like, some friends hanging out and stuff like that. It's nothing romantic, right? And somebody brought up a good point here. Said she's the balance. Says she's a DA but has a poor memory. Exactly, right? Lies.
With Mama. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He paid for the cruise and the flights for that trip.
So he called his cruise agent.
See how we're going to back off into this story. She just asked, did he pay for the trip? But liars have to give you the story. Otherwise, they have to convince you that this is the truth. That's why liars have to tell the story, because the truth don't need, like I said before, multiple times, the truth does not need explaining. The truth just is.
And he booked that through them because he has a cruise
Look at her
agent.
face.
He also has a regular agent. I don't know the cruise agent's name.
So I wasn't asking about his travel agent. I was just asking
But
if
I'm
he
trying to-
paid for those.
He did not, though.
Okay.
Because the reason I consider that he did not is I gave him his money back.
And I was about
So-
to ask that, but initially he paid for that.
Yeah, he called his cruise agent. Like, I think they have his card on record.
See this face? Like this, how you can tell when somebody else is lying too, because they try to do this face like, yeah, like, you know, this is how the thing goes. Like, yeah, you know, to cover up the fact that you just lied. Because he did pay for the trip. But this is the reason why I don't think he paid for it, because now she got to give this baloney story.
Do whatever.
Okay. So initially he paid for the cruise and the flight to Miami and the Royal Caribbean cruise.
And my understanding of that October cruise is like it was a pack.
And see how she's trying to keep verifying her statements by saying my understanding or I think and things like that, that's vague. So it's not like I actually lied. I said I believe.
Package the lady did for him.
So, and I'll get to the reimbursements and all that. I'm just trying to confirm he paid for the flight and the cruise in October.
And I think that when you say things that way,
Yes or no?
I want this record to be
Initially.
abundantly clear that he calls his travel agent, he calls his cruise agent. They do whatever he tells them. He's like on a first name basis with these people. They do it.
More
And
details.
then he tells me how much it is, and I give him the money back. I don't, just like you're asking me about the money with Robin, I don't do my friends like that. So if you tell me it's a G, then you're going to get $1,000. Whatever it is, I didn't ever make him produce receipts to me. Whatever he told me it was, I gave him his money back.
Isn't it true that he paid for the
He tell you, like, gave him the money back. And you know, next, she playing the game here. She playing the game. She wants her, you know, now you got to prove that I'm lying.
cruise and the flight on his credit card? I'm not asking about reimbursement or after. He used his credit card to buy the cruise and buy the flight, correct?
I have no idea how he paid for it,
Okay.
if it's a credit card, if it's a debit card, but certainly he called his cruise agent. You know, like how many people have a cruise agent? He calls his cruise agent, tells them where they want to go. They tell him what's booked. You have to remember, he paid for that initial was me, him, and his mother.
And then after that cruise, you all flew to Aruba and spent a couple days in a hotel there, correct?
Right, and his mother was not happy.
He
that we left
initially
her
Look at
paid
that.
behind.
You got to put that in. His mother was not happy. Look at that. More distraction. More distraction.
He initially paid for that.
For Aruba, yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about both of those. I know he initially paid for it. Did you pay him back?
For the cruise and for Aruba, yeah, I gave him his money before we ever went on that trip.
You gave him cash before you ever went on the trip?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you got cash to pay him back on these trips, would you go to the ATM?
No, lady,
You would not go to the ATM.
no.
So
Yeah.
Fulton County pays you direct deposit, I assume?
Yes, Fulton County and the state of Georgia both pay me direct deposits.
Okay. So the cash that you would pay him, you wouldn't get it out of the bank.
I have money in my house.
You have money in your house. So it was just money that was there.
When you meet my father,
I see there. She's setting the stage. My daddy gonna explain all of this. When you meet my father, you're gonna see.
he's going to tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times. Now, I don't know why this old black man feels like that.
See how she throw that in there too? This old black man, so people can feel like this is what black people always do. Black people always have a secret stash of cash because of slavery. It's because of slavery that we don't trust the banks. You know, she wants us to believe that she's the whole district attorney and that she keeps a safe stash with cash.
But he does. When we were growing up, my daddy had 3 safes in the house. So my father's bought me a lockbox, and I always keep cash in the house. Now, I don't do it to the degree that my father would do it, so he would probably be ashamed with me, but I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to. 'Cause I don't go on many dates, but when you go on a date,
see there, more story. So the liars always give you the reason why. See, the truth don't need explaining.
have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. We've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. When it's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice.
There, see, everybody does that. You know, I kept some of the money from the last campaign when later on she's going to say she was broke, that she lost all the money from what she put up in that campaign. More lies. So she's already dug herself into a hole here by talking, thinking. Most of these narcissists think that they are smarter than everybody, that they can lie their way and convince people to believe them. That's why they always get up there and start talking, because they believe that they are smarter than you and that they are good liars, that this is the story and you're going to believe whatever I tell you.
Advise it to all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from?
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband. No, it's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from. And so for many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash, in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
You know which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job, because before I was DA.
It could have come from, so she now is doing a Tarzan, going from rope to rope, swinging here from these lies, because she realizes that she doesn't have a valid way to prove where this money came from. Like, there's no trace of it, no way to say. So she's trying to paint it vague, so you can't really have me pin it down to when and where the money actually came from. Over so many years, my whole life, I've always kept cash, just here and there, cash.
I was in private practice, so I earned money during that time period. That's probably in there.
You don't know
could have. What do you mean? I don't know where it came from.
I understand the situation. We can move on.
Okay, thanks. Same with Aruba. You don't know where that cash came from either, right?
Ma'am, you are mischaracterizing my testimony greatly. I'm not going to allow you to mischaracterize my testimony. I know that I keep money in my house. The amounts of money I gave Mr. Wade, it was never that serious. I don't think I've ever handed him more than $2,500 in a reimbursement. So we're not talking about $20,000 in cash. I don't have $20,000 in cash right now. The most I ever gave him, I know I gave him $2,500 when we went to Belize, because we went to one
more story. When they tell the lie, they always qualify with, because I know it was at 7:00 because the sun was setting on the headboard of the thing, and that's why it was morning time. Yeah, I mean, but baloney. Too many details.
And then we went to a second hotel. That $2,500 I actually gave him while we were still in Belize. I know that the Aruba trip, the one that you described with his mom, I think I gave him about $2,000 for that trip for like total.
His mom went to Aruba with you?
The Aruba trip. So I consider that to be one trip. So we got off of a cruise ship and then we went to Aruba, which is why I cannot remember is that the time that we had to stay in Miami to wait for the flight for Aruba. So I consider that one trip that we didn't like come back to Atlanta and leave. We flew down to Miami. We got on a cruise ship. We spent a couple of days with his mama. We came back to Miami. When we came back to Miami, either that day or the next day, we flew to Aruba. We spent a few days in Aruba and we came back. That was really one trip. Even though we went two places, it was one trip.
So let's talk about the California trip.
Napa.
Is that when you were moving your daughter out to California? When you all went, or did you have two trips to California?
My daughter doesn't live in California.
Did she ever live in California?
I'm not discussing to you the location of my child.
Yes, she
So-
did.
How many times did you go with Mr. Wade to California?
Once.
And you all stayed in Napa Valley and he paid for the plane tickets and the hotel?
He paid for the plane tickets and the hotel.
And what did you pay for on that trip?
I gave him much less cash that time, probably $400 or $500, and then I paid for a bunch of stuff. I think we did 2 different wine tours that you do, which are pretty expensive. I think I bought him. He likes wine. I don't really like wine, to be honest with you. I like Grey Goose. I bought him a bottle of wine while we were there, and the sippings that you do. I can't remember how many, like 4 or 5 different places you go. I remember we went to.
I know, huh? That's what I'm saying. For these
to
details,
this place that they do pairings.
Me
That was
very
the most
clear.
expensive thing that I think that we did while we were there. So they would pair.
It's all coming back
They
now.
would pair champagne, chocolate, and caviar. It was a 3, and it was like 3 different things. Sweden,
It was black
Russia, someplace
caviar,
else. I'll
red
make that up.
caviar,
But,
and then
that-
there
that
was
the most-
a lady who was walking the dog. I know that because the dog reminded me of when I was 12 years old. Another lady, she had a dog just like that, and she used to walk the dog all the time. So when I was there and was tasting the caviar with the wine, I don't like wine because I usually do just Grey Goose. But because I saw the lady with the dog there, and that's how I know that, yeah, that's what happened.
most expensive thing we did that trip, and I paid for that.
You pay cash?
For us doing that?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that trip did not cost me a lot of money.
Listen,
I might have took.
see how she walked it back after she said you paid cash? And he was like, well, yeah. Oh, well, I might have, you know what I mean? But first she just announced all this money, right? That she paid and gave him $2,500 before they even got there. And now she's paying for all of the, fun and activities on the trip. And you're paid with cash also. Everybody always only have a finite amount of cash. So if you've already given away the $2,500, where did the next $2,500 come from? And then where did you get the $800 or the $700 that you were spending on the trip? And you had cash with this too? Where is this? Where is this pot of money?
Like $750 in cash on me because we weren't gone very long. And then
I'd only asked if you paid in cash. I don't even know the amounts.
when I travel, I always take cash.
And is the cash that you keep in your house, or do you keep it at the condo that you were living in?
So at that point, it wouldn't be at my house. And I'm sorry if I was not clear. The money would be wherever I laid my head. So I wouldn't leave the money at the house. If I was unclear.
So
No.
you brought the safe over there with you too? She wouldn't leave the money at the house, right? So now, yeah, okay.
Money's going to be where I stay.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you pay for your trip to Panama?
To where?
Panama, I believe.
I didn't go to Panama.
I may have the location wrong.
I never went to Panama.
So after
Mr. Wade went to Panama with his frat brother.
Oh, he went to Panama with his frat brothers. So tell me about, let's see. So I want to make sure I've got them. I've got Belize. You already covered Belize. You covered the.
So let me tell you our real trips. In October, we went on the cruise with his mom. We got back from the cruise with his mom and we went to Aruba. I consider that one trip. Second trip, New Year's Eve, we went on a cruise to the Bahamas. That's the second trip. I want to make sure I get this right. Third trip, 100% on me. I think he might have spent $200 on that entire trip. We went to Belize. That was my trip. That was, his 50th. And then Napa Valley, we went around May. I don't know the dates, but it seems to me like it was close to Mother's Day.
And those are the only trips?
So that the record is complete. I can remember one time driving to, where were we? South Carolina, and we met my sister for lunch with her man.
I can remember, come on now. Lie.
When was that?
I don't know, but we didn't stay the night there. But I guess people would consider that a trip if you drive somewhere and you come back. That was insane because it was like 5 hours to drive. We ate lunch and we drove right back. I can remember driving to some little town in Georgia. I don't even know where I was. I had never been there before or after. There's some boat you can get on over to, and they're like a slave thing. If that gives anyone any reference, we didn't do that.
The Black History.
I remember doing that. I remember driving one time to Charlotte. We had lunch with one of my very close girlfriends. And again, we drove to Charlotte, met my girlfriend for lunch, and drove right back. So that's a trip. We didn't stay the night there, but I just want to be complete in my testimony. We drove someplace, had lunch, drove back. I don't remember another driving someplace distant for lunch and coming back to Charlotte to see a girlfriend, to meet my sister in South Carolina. We went by ourselves when I told you about that remote place in Georgia.
And that's about it.
We could have driven someplace else and had lunch and came back, but that's all that comes to my recollection right now. There could have been another place we drove and had lunch. My security team was very clear to me. I'm not to be out and about in Atlanta without them. And so for me to do something just very normal that a normal person would get to do, if they weren't prosecuting this case, I got to drive 4 hours to do it.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Your security detail, did they take you to and from your house?
So I haven't been able to enjoy my home.
Condo, I'm sorry.
Since March of
where you lay your head? Did they take you to and from where you lay your head?
99% of the time.
Would they take Mr. Wade to and from wherever you laid your head?
That has never in the history of ever happened, ever, okay?
Your security team has never taken him?
From my house? That's a lie.
I'm asking if they've ever taken him anywhere.
And I'm telling you that that's never happened.
Now watch her put in there from her house, right? So this way, so she'll throw in a detail and dispute that. That's what liars do when they are confronted with the truth and they know that they've been caught. They'll throw a detail out there and argue about that. He's never been taken from my house. Like put that on there to where it avoids being honest about the true question, which is, have they ever taken him anywhere, right? So she put in a specific spot to argue no to that.
Happened.
So your security team has never taken Mr. Wade
My security team has never taken Mr. Wade from any place where I have lived and brought him here. Never, not once, not ever.
Have they ever taken the two of you together?
To where?
Anywhere.
Well, we've left this building and gone to lunch, but I go to lunch so rare.
That's a yes or no answer. But see how liars do? They wear you out. That way you can get lost in what answers that you're trying to, where your proof is at.
Rarely, that is a very rare occasion, I am sure. And let me be clear, it wouldn't just be Mr. Wade. So I'm sure my security team has taken me to lunch. Probably been a time I've left here 7 o'clock, gone to get something to eat. And I don't even know that they would have taken him or he would have driven himself. But they've taken me to do that. But we're talking very few, very far in between. Most days I don't even eat lunch. And when I do, it's because my assistant has heated up some bag, something, and I eat through meetings and eat in my office. It's not a practice of mine to go to lunch.
During the time period that you were dating, would your security team ever take you two together?
I went from, did the security team ever take y'all someplace to, I usually don't even take lunch. Where did the lunch come from?
No.
Never.
If there was a lunch that occurred that I just described,
If there was a lunch, right? So these are other ways to tell the lie without it being a lie because you said if.
if there was a meal that occurred that I just described, anything outside of that, and it needs to be very clear. Not often, once, twice, because I want to be over inclusive. I'm saying once or twice. I'm not certain that it happened, but I'd rather be over inclusive.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
And well, no, look, I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was,
She feeling confident on that one, but yes, you are, baby. You are on trial.
do you have any
I
problem?
object to getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
And I'm not, no, I'm not dealing with privilege. What we had offered to put them in camera for the court to review, and I just want to know if she has any
That's not
problem.
something you deal with a witness.
Okay, you have to file as part of your job something called the income and financial disclosure report, correct?
That's correct.
And you filed your first one, so you filed 2 to date, is that right?
Is it 2 or 3? I probably would have filed 21, 22, and maybe I haven't filed 23 yet, because isn't it due like June of the next year?
April, I believe. So you filed, let's see, you filed your first one, it looks like April 15th, 2022, and your second one, April 17th, 2023. Does that sound familiar?
That I don't remember the dates, but you're an officer of the court. I'm gonna hope you're telling the truth now.
May I proceed?
You may.
See how she keep a little low key. I hope you tell the truth now. Trying to establish the fact that the attorney who's asking questions is a liar. She's good.
Thank you. I already gave the state a copy, exhibit 20 and 21. If you take a look at those. They're part of the certified records.
Can somebody bring me some? Yeah. Guys are getting a little old. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
those are the ones that you filed.
This looks like me for sure. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Judge, we'd move to admit 20 and 21.
I think you need to delineate which one's which
20
one's which.
is 2021, so it accounts for the time period, Your Honor, January the 1st, 21 through December the 31st, 2021. That is Defendant's Exhibit 20. Defendant's Exhibit 2021, it accounts for the time period, January the 1st, 2022 through December the 1st of 2022.
All right. Any objection to exhibits 20 and 21?
Nope.
Another counsel admitted without objection.
When did your personal relationship with Mr. Wade end?
Our personal relationship ended in this year. So let's be very clear so that we don't mix words. I don't want to mix words in here. Mr. Wade is my friend right now. Mr. Wade, I would say, has been my friend since 2020. I think he started out as like a mentor and a professional colleague. He became my friend and somebody that I really respected. I feel very indebted to Mr. Wade for taking on the task of this job. And he is certainly my friend and one of the people that I respect the most. So if you ask about a personal relationship, I consider myself to have a personal relationship right now, Mr. Wade. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Anna Cross. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Mr. Abadi. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Andrew Evans.
Okay, let me just clarify that.
I have a personal relationship with him as we speak right now. I don't think that's what you're asking. I think that's what you're asking.
When did your romantic relationship with Mr. Wade end? When did it end?
Me and Mr. Wade, we are good friends. My respect for him has grown over these 7 weeks of attacks.
And this is done so she can have time to think about what the answer should be. right? Since, the lie, now she's thinking. So she's buying herself time with more of this here story here, right? Because like I said before, truth doesn't need explanation. The truth is just the truth. Somebody say when your birthday is, you don't have to say, well, really, I was born at like 7:30, but so the date would have been, you don't, it's just what it is.
We are very good friends. I think, but for these attacks, it would have been a friendship that as life goes, you would have.
See that? All this here story, February, January 22, whatever it was. Why don't you just say that?
Stopped having. I think that you have cemented that we'll be friends till the day we die.
Look at her face.
I just have an answer to the question.
I can handle Mr. Seda. Let's have it.
She asked about a personal relationship.
She asked when the romantic relationship ended. That's the question.
It's sometime in, I'd say late summer of 2023. So I don't believe men, this is what you're really asking about. This is the salaciousness of all of this, right?
No, I'm just asking about your romantic relationship, when you stopped dating.
I think that me and Mr. Wade, so he's a man, he probably would say June or July. I would say we had a tough conversation in August. So that men in relationships at the end of physical intimacy, women in relationships when that tough conversation takes place.
And where, when did he come to, I guess, the condo? I'm not sure.
Not only does she play the black card, but she plays the woman card too, man. She's just putting us back so many years.
What you called it, condo apartment. Would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo. So I'm trying to use those terms.
So but there's been more see, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I
Ms. Merchant, if you could ask a more precise question.
Yes, please give me the time period. that we're
Mr.
talking
Wade
about.
visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here.
Yeah. See how, look at her. She didn't drove way over to here, right? When the question was, has he visited you at a place where you laid your head? Well, let's go. But now she's pointing out all these lies. Listen to this.
Right here.
No, I'm gonna-
No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Willis?
You see.
Mr. Seda, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes. Be back in 5.
How often did Mr. Wade visit you at a place where you were living between 2019 and 2021?
So you want to start with the lie that he lived with me in South Fulton in 2019, the home he's never been to? That's one lie you told in your document.
See there? So how she keeps drawing it back there to try to keep the control.
No.
Judge, I didn't ask her about that.
Ms. Merchant, I want you to ask a very precise question. I think she's saying and answering that he did not live with her. So why don't we break that up into smaller
Ever.
parts?
And I didn't ask about living.
But you put in while we're talking about professionalism, while we're talking about professionalism, she put in 3 different documents
Well,
he
she'll
lived
have
with me.
full opportunity to respond.
In
And file that with the court.
2019,
He's never been to South Fulton. In 2019, I lived in South Fulton. He has never been to my residence in 2019, ever, not once.
in 2019, he's never been to your residence, any place.
I lived in my home in South Fulton before.
See how she keeps going back to say where she lived at? See? Stay on that. I lived in my home at South Fulton, so she can vehemently say that he hasn't been there. But y'all was doing the bang, bang, boogie somewhere where you was laying your head at, lady.
Before I started getting the threats that were here, a house I paid for with my own sweat and tears. I'm no longer able to live there. But in 2019, I did. And in the 2 months of 2019 that I knew Mr. Wade, 3 months, the beginning of October, all of November, and all of
now
December,
she's so clear on
Mr.
these
Wade
details.
never came to
Look
my
at that.
house in South Fulton. Let me help you out. I lived there in 2020. He never came to my house in 2020, let alone live with me, as you put falsely in these documents. In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
So in 2020, so you said 2019, 2020, did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you
He has
resided?
never been to my home
Yeah.
in South Fulton.
She said, has he visited you at a place where you laid your head? She keeps going back to the home in South Fulton. This is how you can tell people lying. She's lying.
2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualified that with your home in South Fulton.
That's where I lived in 2020.
2020, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay, I don't understand. You want to give me that. In 2020, I
she's-
lived in South Fulton.
Okay,
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
all right.
And at my
Well,
home
I
in
think we're
South
gonna clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it
Miss,
down.
he never came.
She over
okay?
talking
So
to
if you
Judge.
don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, that's going to have to caution. This is going to be my first time out to caution. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm going to have no choice but to strike the testimony. So,
Yeah, look
we need
at
to
her.
break this down. Ms. Merchant's
Whatever.
question, I
Look
believe,
at that. Did y'all see that?
asking whether you lived.
This is a judge.
I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my
Miss-
home, Judge.
All right.
And
Whatever.
at my home in
We're gonna
South
clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it
Miss,
down.
he never came there, okay?
Look at her. First, she's just talking over the judge. She has no respect for him either.
So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, that's going to have to caution. This is going to be my first time out to caution. We have to listen to the questions as asked.
Watch her.
And if this happens again and again, I'm going to have no choice but to strike the testimony. So,
Strike it then.
we need to break
See that? Strike it.
this down. Ms. Merchant's question, I believe, is asking whether you lived anywhere other than South Fulton.
I did not live anywhere but South Fulton, Georgia in 2020. That is before I began my prosecution of this case, and it was my plan to only live there.
Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo that you leased from Miss Yurdi?
He visited that condo, yes.
He did.
Yes.
Did he ever spend the night at that condo?
No.
He left
Just
before the
visited.
sun came
He
up.
did visit for sure.
Did you ever go out to eat together, other than the lunches you talked about,
In
during
2020?
2019 or 2020?
I would think that we probably went to lunch, but it wouldn't have been,
I would.
let me think, 2019. I'm gonna say,
2019.
I don't know, I'm gonna say we probably broke bread someplace in 2019. I don't remember it, but it
I don't
seems like we
remember it.
broke bread sometime in 2019. So I'm gonna say yes, although I have no
I
recollection.
have no recollection.
But it seems to me like I go out to eat and drink with pretty much everyone, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna
no,
say
yeah,
yes.
I'm gonna say yes.
So outside of the vacations that we've already talked about,
He's-
did you ever go out to dinner with Mr. Wade?
I mentioned to you that
I'm gonna object as to what time period. Like, we're asking very vague questions. I thought we were treating the witness as hostile on the 6/11. We're no longer doing that. So we're gonna go back and forth. We need to be more specific with our questions if we're gonna treat her as hostile.
All right, Ms. Merchant, it's not so much, I think you can elect between leading and open-ended questions, but I think we are still wondering about, and I think we need to get back on track of focusing on the financial benefit or the relationship.
And my next question about if you did, who paid when you went out to dinner?
I paid.
You both paid.
Okay, so let me be real clear.
More proof when people lying, they always, make the facial expressions and stuff. Like, come on, like the sky is green. What are you talking about? The sky is green. Everyone knows that. Like, really? What are you like? Duh.
Clear. We didn't say, oh, the bill is $102. You give $51, I'll give $51. I don't operate like that with my girlfriends. I don't operate like that with anyone. He caught the bill, I caught the bill. Whomever.
Did you ever pay him through Cash App?
No.
You only ever paid him through cash?
Well, Yes, we're talking about, I'm very confused
You've
now.
never
Like,
given Mr. Wade money through Cash App.
no,
The only money you've ever given him outside of a contract is cash.
I didn't give him money in a contract, so that was cute, but I didn't give him money outside in a contract. What happened is, no, we're gonna answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not gonna get an answer.
And I will ask you about the contract in a minute. I asked you about cash. Did you ever pay him anything? And I'm trying to qualify my questions. I'm not talking about the contract with Fulton County that was paid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about outside of that. Did you ever pay him anything other than cash?
I've only given him cash a few times in the course
These
of
are
what we're
yes or
talking.
no answers again. But liars do this. I've only given them cash a few times. Like, why didn't you just say yes or no? It's either yes or no. And look at the face again. Trying to make the person asking the question appear stupid or dumb for asking the questions. These are manipulation tactics.
About.
So you've
If
never
we would go to dinner,
Let her finish her answers.
if we would go to dinner, I wouldn't give him cash because he paid for dinner or I paid for dinner. I've given him cash only a few times in life, probably 4.
Okay.
Probably the most money I've ever handed him is $2,500. The least amount of money I've handed him, probably between $500 and $1,000.
You never wrote him a check?
Ma'am, I don't have checks.
So you have no,
Again, yes or no. But she's got to try to demoralize the woman by going, man, I don't have checks. Why couldn't that just be no? But see, she's doing this to try to get into the psyche of the attorney who's asking her, Miss Merchant, who's asking these questions and stuff. These are tactics used by liars.
proof of any reimbursement for any of these things because it was all cash, right?
The testimony of one witness is enough to prove a fact.
So my
Are you
question was,
telling
do
me
you
that
have
I'm
any
lying to you?
proof?
Is that what you're intimating right here?
I'm asking if you have any proof that you paid him any of these
The proof
monies.
is what I just told you.
Everything is get
You have
defensive.
no written proof. Is that correct?
It's get defensive.
So I have some,
Well,
probably some transactions like in Belize. I probably spent $500 on my card in Belize. I spent 800, I can't remember, $900 on each of our tickets to go to Belize. I did the $700. I probably got some minor expenses in Aruba that would be on a card. But for the most part, for those trips, other than,
stop right there.
so
Remember when she said that first, at one point in the beginning of this here, she said that she paid the tickets and then Mr. Wade paid the tickets. And now she's saying again that she has paid the tickets. So which one is it? If you paid the tickets, why did you reimburse him? Why did you reimburse him?
So the 2 cruises, I gave him money for those before we ever left, because they were pre-booked. Let me answer.
Well, the question was if you had any written proof. And so
So I've answered you that I've had written
we
proof.
can move
for
to the next question. If you've answered if you had any written proof, and that was my question.
I want to make sure that we're clear that for the 2 cruises.
Judge,
and that's
I
the
asked if
cruise
she gave
plus
him written
Aruba.
proof.
We're not going to talk over each other. Ms. Merchant, she answered your question, so we can ask the next question. Ms. Willis, Ms. Cross will have plenty of opportunities to let you clarify your answers when it's her turn.
Thank you, Judge. Knowing your role as district attorney, you know that public funds are scrutinized and money is scrutinized and things like that. You
I've
understand.
never, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You understand you're under a microscope. You have reporting requirements, all of those types of things. You have no record other than your testimony of the money that you've given Mr. Wade.
You've already asked that question. Let's keep going.
When you took office, you had a tax lien of $4,600. Did you pay that with cash when you made that tax lien whole?
What?
I probably paid through,
The thing.
however you pay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you were saying that you had amounts of cash. You still had that lien in 2022 when you were dating Wade and going on these trips. So the cash that you gave him, that could have been used to pay this tax lien off?
You gonna tell me how to pay my
I'm gonna
bills?
object. This is not relevant as it relates to why we're here today.
Yeah, because if you had cash like that, why would you, and you're supposed to be the DA, owe taxes? So this right now, she's just put herself in jeopardy for tax evasion. She just admitted that she had the money to pay the government, but she didn't. You owed the IRS, you have a tax lien that you didn't pay, but then you are spending cash money that's untraceable. You the DA, lady, come on now. Come on. And you looking at her like she's stupid?
Ms. Merchant, are you trying to establish that she was insolvent in some way?
I definitely was trying to establish that she did not have these mass amounts of cash that she's talking about. Yes.
She is. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Re-ask the question.
You had a tax lien in 2022, $4,600.
Did you say I did?
Mm.
And you did not use this cash that you had to reimburse Mr. Wade to pay that off, correct?
No.
Okay.
I went shopping too when I didn't pay it off.
And you talked about, you gave a lot of interviews to some authors and a book called Fani Willis, right?
I would not characterize it as a lot. I probably have spoken to them
No,
2 or 3 times.
My question is relevant as to.
I think it's already come up that finances are discussed in the book. I'll overrule that.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, you can continue your answer.
What came up with Mr. Wade as these hearsay statements that he was asked about in relation to what Ms. Willis may or may not have said in relation to an author. So it's not relevant to the testimony that's occurring at this time.
I think Ms. Merchant has said that inside the book, she also makes a statement as to her own finances, and that's at issue.
So you gave interviews to the authors of this book, correct?
Once or twice.
Okay. And
3 times, just to be comprehensive. I don't know if it was 3 times, 2 or 3 times, I think.
you were quoted in the book, and I will give you a chance to say if this is a misquote. You were quoted, when they asked you about if you wanted to run for office for DA, you were quoted, "I really don't want to be financially effed up again." Do you remember saying that?
So what that refers to,
My question first is if you remember saying that.
I remember saying something similar to that, but I would like to be able to explain what that's in
fine.
reference to. That's not in reference to anything else. It was a huge sacrifice to be district attorney in Fulton County, huge. I was doing just fine. I had a municipal court judgeship that was paying me $100-something thousand a year, and like you got to show up twice a week. Easiest thing I've ever done in life.
Wow. So she's lazy. She wants to have an easy job. And listen,
I also had private clients that were paying me to represent them. So I was able to have a law practice and that. Raising 2 daughters by myself, there were times in life where things were hard. And so I was telling people, I don't really run for DA. I don't want to run for DA. I'm in a good position right now. I got this easy job that I enjoy, being the chief judge of the city of South Fulton. I'm making money at the law firm, and I'm not sure that I want to make this sacrifice. And why does it always have to be me? Eventually, I prayed. I think that I was the appropriate person. I think that I did that. So when you're referring to that, what I'm saying is, why should I make a sacrifice again? And what I was not talking about is being district attorney. Once you get elected district attorney, you're in a fine financial position. I make over $200,000 a year. What I was talking about is I ran for judge. When I ran for judge, I took $50,000 of my personal money out of my retirement, and that money ended up being lost. And I know.
All right, so she just said she lost the $50,000, right? Earlier, she said that she had kept some of the money from when she was running for this office here.
When you bet on yourself, you're going to have to bet money on yourself. And so what I was talking about was not wanting to go through the personal financial expense of running for office. Mm-hmm. By no means did I think that I was going to be financially in a bad position once I won. Let's talk about what I was up against, because it's important to understand that comment. I had a district attorney who had been here for 24 years. People, it's very relevant as to what my mindset was about this. So I'm trying to answer your question. So what I was saying is
tailored solely to finance.
Right, but it is about my finances.
It's about-
If I didn't, nobody put me in this seat. So I had already run for office once. I had spent $50,000 of my own money running, and it was vamoose, nothing. And so when I'm talking to those offers, I'm talking about the contemplation of the sacrifice of the run, not the sacrifice of once you become DA. The odds were against me. I was likely going to lose the election based on who I was running against.
I'm Black.
So that needs to be in the appropriate context.
Isn't it true that the authors also wrote, and you can dispute this if you'd like, that you were broke after that race?
The 2018 race.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a hard race. I wasn't broke like I didn't have any. So broke is relative to depending where you are. But
Now she's gonna walk it back, right? Because if you was broke, then where'd you get the $2,500 here, the $2,500 there, the $2,000 there, the $1,000 to give to Mr. Wade?
that hurt to lose that $50,000. So I'm sure my mental mindset was like, I just gave $50,000 away.
Right. So they characterized it from their conversations with you that you were broke, you had poured your own money into the campaign, and you weren't able to pay your own bills because of your clients couldn't pay their bills to you, and you had a paltry array of family and asset forfeiture cases. It says you were trying to make it month to month. Is that an accurate depiction of your financial situation at that point?
I would want to read that, but I don't remember clients not being able to pay their bills. Or
May I approach Judge?
you can.
You may.
Page 13.
I have not read this book.
Let me see this book. Let me see the number.
So like this fact here, her ex-husband Fred had run into a financial. I have no information about that.
See, now she picked a little part in the book to say that she don't have any knowledge about, right? But it doesn't go with the question that she just asked her.
About what they represent from their interviews with you, that you were broke and that you had clients that weren't able to pay their bills.
Can you show me where that is? Because this is where you put the tab. So that's where I read.
Broke, couldn't pay their bills.
Yeah, I'm sure I characterized myself as broke as leaving that $50,000. I don't know that I had her nascent law practice at paltry array.
Well, you just
I didn't have.
Ms. Merchant.
I thought I had a law practice. So this is not correct. I'm sure it's just I didn't have any asset forfeiture cases. So I had one case where they had took one of my clients' money at the airport. I don't know if that's what they're I don't know. Paltry array. I did have family law cases. I guess that's what they're talking about. And clients who couldn't pay their bills ain't clients. So no.
So my question was just if this was a fair and accurate representation where it says you were trying to make it month to month at that point.
No, I don't think that is actually a fair and accurate representation, but I am certain that after the 2018 election, I'm still not really happy about having given up that $50,000.
You know when you paid your tax lien?
I don't.
You don't? Do you know if you paid it?
I know I've paid some taxes. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I know I paid some taxes. See, this way it's not a lie because I say I know I paid some taxes. She asked you about the tax lien. This heifer ain't paid her tax lien, but you got thousands of dollars to be, putting out there that you have not reported to the IRS. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I don't want to speculate.
Did you tell anyone at Fulton County Board of County Commissioners about your relationship with Mr. Wade?
No.
Did you disclose your
No. See how she's doing that again, right? This is a mental manipulation tactic to mess with the esteem of the lady asking her the question so she could feel dumb. She's trying to purposely make her feel stupid for asking these stupid questions.
relationship to anybody at Fulton County?
No, I don't think so.
And as the chief law enforcement officer of Fulton County, I assume that you're familiar with the county code and ordinances.
I've said we're not going to cover that in this hearing, Ms. Merchant.
I'm sorry, Judge?
I think we said we weren't going to cover the county regulations.
Okay, and I won't. Let me ask you this then. So are you aware that you're required to disclose any relationship with someone that you contract with in Fulton County?
I'm gonna object to the court prior ruling that you made this morning.
Would this be different because it's a potential for impeachment?
Yes.
What did you ask me?
Ms. Merchant, if you could re-ask the question.
Okay. Are you aware that Fulton County requires you to disclose any relationship with someone that you're doing business with?
I'm not aware, and I know often that things are confused.
I'm not aware. Should have stopped there, but now she got to put more story so you can understand why she can say that she wasn't aware, right? And you, the whole district attorney.
State constitutional officers in county, but I'm not aware.
Okay. So it's your understanding that you don't have a duty to disclose the
She's
relationship.
answered that question. Let's keep going.
Did you keep track of this cash that you paid him at all?
What are you talking? I don't understand.
Did you keep track? Did you keep a ledger? Did you keep track of it?
So I've only given him cash, as I mentioned, 3 or 4 times. There's no ledger. This is friends handing money off to each other.
So the answer is no, you
I
didn't
think,
keep
and I
track.
think you've already asked whether there was any written proof whatsoever, and she's
Yes.
answered that.
Okay.
So we've covered this. Let's move on.
Who were you referring to when you suggested that Mr. Roman's motion to disqualify was racially motivated?
We already said we're not talking about the forensic misconduct that's been alleged.
And
And just so the record is clear, I don't believe I said that his motion was racially motivated, so I don't want that to stay there. I've never said his motion was racially motivated, so that should not be
Ms.
true.
Willis, I
if
think
she
it would
wrote
be
that.
best if we don't need to go down that road. We're going to save that for argument.
you once said that you would not engage with a personal relationship with anyone that worked for Fulton County. Is that correct?
An employee?
Anyone that worked for Fulton County.
I think I said an employee.
So that's the qualification you give an employee. You wouldn't.
I think that's the statement that I made. So if you want to quote me accurately.
So it's your position because Mr. Wade was not an employee, or it's your position he wasn't an employee, correct?
Mr. Wade is not an employee, and he will tell you that over and over again.
Just 1 moment, Judge. I'm sorry, the statement, just so I make sure I accurately quote you. What you said was you won't sleep with people who work under you. Do you not consider Mr. Wade working under you?
I consider Mr. Wade to be an agent.
An agent?
Yeah,
All right.
an appointee is what I really
I
think of him as.
Your point, whatever merit it has, Ms. Merchant, is on the record.
Thank you, Judge.
Next question.
All right. So, that's it.
Do we need any moments in a minute? Mr. Sadow. All right.
Wait, I want to see this guy. I love him. He's good. Watch him. He's gonna have her on the road. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all go.
I'm going to try to ask you questions that you can actually answer without having to explain, okay?
Yes, sir. My comprehension skills are pretty good, so we should do all right.
We shall soon see. If I heard you correctly, you moved into what I will refer to as the Yurti condo in either March or April of 2021. Is that correct?
Sometime between late February and April. Yes, I don't. Just so we're clear, yes. But in that time period, you're in the ballpark. We're in the ballpark.
And is that
Still want-
Yurti condo, would you say that it is in Hapeville?
It is in Hapeville, yes, sir.
And you moved in there for safety reasons?
My father, yes, I moved in there. We were concerned. My father was terribly concerned about me continuing to live at the house. And so they were clear. People came to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning about the police brutality cases, saying I was going to have a wake-up call. There were security threats due to gang cases, and there were concerns due to that was at the very beginning of this, looking into that. And so for all of those reasons and what was happening, my father wanted me out the house, and begrudgingly I left.
Okay, so the answer to the question was a yes for safety reasons, correct?
Those were all of the things that caused the safety concerns. I'm
I'm
sorry.
not
if-
questioning whether they are or are not safety concerns. I just asked that you moved into this condo, ERT condo,
Right.
for safety reasons, right?
Yes,
At the time that you moved into the condo, be it from February to April of 2021,
yes,
was your father still living in your house?
right, because my father,
That's
yeah,
all I ask you.
but I get to explain the answer, sir.
I don't know if there's an explanation. If I ask you, was your father still living at your house? The answer is either he was or he wasn't.
Yes, but you are going to get to argue at the end of this, as we both
I'm
know.
not gonna argue
And so I
anything. I'm
would
gonna
like to
ask-
be able to
All right.
explain why.
I'm gonna,
And so,
Okay.
yes,
Willis?
because my father is an older gentleman, he was worried about COVID and he stayed.
Ms. Willis, I'm gonna have to say that's second time. Whenever we have to put a pause, we stop testifying, okay? You don't have a chance to explain yourself.
When you told her
The
you were
question
going
was
to give her one,
whether your father was not staying there at the time, and
that's why
you're clarifying that
that brushed them off because she
in your answer as well.
don't have any respect.
You can have a brief clarification, but it shouldn't be something that reaches well beyond the question. All right, Mr. Sadao, you can re-ask the question. We'll see where it takes us.
It's
okay,
still
thank you. Your Honor.
bowing down on her.
Was your father still living in your house at the time you moved to what I would refer to as a ERT condo?
Yes, sir, he was, due to his concerns related to COVID.
The safety concern was that there was potential danger at your house. Is that correct?
Yes, my address had been exposed, so yes, there was concerns about potential danger at my house.
Okay, so anyone staying at your house in the time period after you went to the Yerty condo was still in danger, correct?
Yeah, well, no, he did.
I think you have to, it's your attorney, Ms. Willis. Sorry, Mr. Bott, your objection is speculation
Yes.
to the question of
Speculation.
whether someone was still in danger at her condo,
I can
Just let her answer the question.
or Mr. Sadao wants to rephrase.
No, yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
was able to
I've got
understand it.
I've got the objection and then I have,
I'll withdraw the objection.
You look, she's so eager to tell this lie that she's not even understanding why her attorney is trying to object so she doesn't have to, because she's going to be incriminating herself. If you moved out for safety and it was in a safe place, why is your father and your children still there? And then she said earlier that the father and the children weren't there.
Okay.
So, and I don't remember the question, so I can answer it.
you can now that the objection's been withdrawn. Can you try to answer that question?
Yes,
There's still a safety concern
I was.
for people staying at the house.
Yes, I was very concerned about my father still living at the house. However, if you have dealt with an older gentleman, he was not leaving the house despite my urging him that I thought he should leave as well. He did not want to leave the house because he was particularly worried at his age about COVID. But that became I don't want to say I was not happy with that decision of my father's, but I can't ultimately make him leave. And he stayed there too long, in my opinion.
Thank you. During that period that you left to go to the Yerty condo,
Yeah.
did any of your children stay at your house?
So I don't think that they were there at that point. Certainly my baby wasn't there.
Right. See that? I don't think. That way I'm telling the lie, but I said I didn't think. That way, if someone calls me back on it, I can throw in there that I said I didn't think.
Talking about this entire period, we're talking about, if I remember correctly, and you'll correct me, I'm sure, you said that you stayed there at what I would call the Yerty condo until January of 2022, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm asking you in that period, which would be February to April of 2021 until January of 22, did any of your children stay at your house?
And you don't have to yell at me. I'm able to understand. So I would ask you to not yell at me. That being said, I don't actually expressly remember, but I can tell you since I have left my home, there have been times my oldest daughter came in, but I can't tell you with certainty the time window that you've said. if they did or not. And so I don't want to speculate to that, but there was some time that my
Please say
oldest daughter
sure.
came back. Whether it was that period or after I left the Yurdi residence, I'm not sure, okay?
Okay, so
Okay.
if I continue to go into more detail on this, you're not going to be able to give me an answer of whether or not, in fact, any of your children were still at the house or stayed at your house during that time period, correct?
What I can give you clarity of so that we are clear is from the time I moved out in February-ish of 2021, after I left there was a time period that my oldest daughter came back. But if you're asking me, was it in that window or after, I just don't have a recollection of that because, you know, your kids come and they go. And so I don't remember the specific time period, and I apologize for that.
Did your children ever stay with you at the Yurti condo?
Like maybe a night, like for a girls' night or something, but live with, no.
Okay. Did anyone else stay with you at the Yurti condo, including Miss Yurti?
Never. Miss Yurdi never lived in the condo. She met her husband and they moved. They weren't quite married, but they moved. Nobody ever lived with me in the condo. That was
My word was stayed, not lived. Stayed with you at the condo.
I guess I don't understand the distinction, but no one ever, I think my baby's my oldest child. I think she spent one night with me, maybe my oldest and my youngest.
It's a good question. Balance says, how did she get to DA job? She continues to say she does not think. Why have a no thinking DA? I agree. That's why I'm saying, y'all, these people, these Black people, most of these Black women being placed in these positions are corrupt. And they are using Black people's emotions to pursue these goals. They are manipulating us by using emotional triggers, throwing the race card out there, and being a Black woman.
But I think that whole time I was in that place,
I'm thinking for you.
other than that one night, I don't think anyone ever, there was a very lonely period in my life. I don't think anyone ever spent the night other than maybe one night. I remember a picture of my baby sitting on the couch in that place, and I'm thinking she spent that night, but just a very lonely time in life.
Okay, we'll stay with the lonely theme just for a minute. Did Nathan Wade visit you at the Yurti condo from the time you moved in until he was hired on November the 1st of 2021?
So I moved out of that condo, but during that time period, I'm sure he came to visit. I can remember us going, I think the restaurant's Lickety Split. I can remember him picking me up, going to Lickety Split and ordering some food and coming and sitting at my table and eating. So I remember times that he visited me at that condo, yeah.
Okay, could you give us an approximation of how many times Mr. Wade visited you at the condo
I don't think so.
between the time you moved in and prior to November 1 of 2020?
I don't think often, but I don't want to speculate.
Again.
Can we say more than 5, more than 10?
Well,
I'm going to tell you the problem I'm having here. Let's say more than 10, but I'm not sure that that's even accurate. He certainly has come and picked me up, gone to grab some food to eat. I don't remember him being in that condo a lot.
Okay, that's your,
I'm sorry. You want a number, and what I don't want to
Can I
do.
have my
your current and best recollection is all I'm asking for.
That's all I can give you, sir.
How many times did any of the prosecution team, how many times did Anna Cross come to that condo between the time you moved in and November 1st of 2021?
I don't think Anna's ever been to that condo.
You wouldn't
What
do
about any
it.
other prosecutor that's involved in the prosecution of this case?
I don't think any of them have.
Just Mr. Wade.
That's correct, sir.
That's it. It was the only
But
D.
it was a lonely time.
Oh my God, that 2021. I have a lot of guilt about this time period in my life. Let me tell you why. But yes, it was a lonely time.
Okay.
I was very appreciative to the citizens for giving me this responsibility and this duty. But what I very, very quickly learned is that this is a very isolating job, and 2021 was a lonely time. I turned 50 in 2021. That's probably one of the worst birthdays I've ever had. I spent it alone. So I have a clear recollection of 2021 being lonely.
Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo, the time period I'm talking about, prior to November of 2021, when Miss Yerty was at the condo?
So Miss Yurdy and me, we didn't share the condo at the same time,
So the answer would be no.
but we never stayed there together. So it's an
Oh, I'm saying-
impossibility.
It's an impossibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Miss Yurdy, because we need to get clarification on this. Miss Yurdy stayed in that place. There may have been a time that me and Mr. Wade visited, like went and saw Miss Yurdy, but me and Miss Yurdy never lived there together.
Yeah.
So we're clear.
See how she kind of scrambled that up there, right? Just so we're clear. So yeah.
Well, maybe that was clear, but I'm going to have to try again.
Okay.
Was Miss Yerty still living in the condo when you moved in?
Not a day.
Okay. So what
That
I'm
was another
talking,
misrepresentation in this. We never lived together. I never lived with Miss Yurdy.
my question though, I'm trying to understand
Okay.
that after you moved in to the condo, Miss Yerty she was out of the condo, right?
She got a house.
That's all I'm asking. She's not in the condo.
We never stay, Miss Yurty and I never stay a day together in the condo. All of her stuff was out of the condo, and all my stuff, some of my stuff, not all of it obviously, was moved into the condo. So we never stayed there together. No, sir.
All right. So when I asked you about Mr. Wade visiting the condo when you were staying there,
Yes,
Miss Yerty wasn't staying there, correct?
that would be correct. Yes.
She wouldn't be at the condo, correct?
No, she would not have been.
It would be you and Mr. Wade alone at the condo, correct?
Yes.
That is, there weren't any other witnesses to Mr. Wade and you at the condo, correct?
Yes.
No security, none of your security
I'm
detail.
gonna object. She said it was just her and Mr. Wade.
You made your point, Mr. Sadow. Let's move on to the next one.
Yes, Your Honor. Who in the prosecution team prior to, I guess, the motion being filed by defendant Roman, who in the prosecution team
What these answers mean, like what angle, like what truth does she need to try to cover up here? Because liars never know exactly, what they have to say in order to, dispute the truth. So she's listening and trying to figure out like what the angle is so she'll know how to answer.
knew of your personal relationship, and now I'm talking romantic, with Mr. Wade.
So, sir, I am extremely private.
All I asked you is who knew. It's not, the answer is no one knew, that's fine.
No.
I ask you who knew.
You can answer
me just tell
it
you
and
this.
then explain this, Willis.
I am very private. When I supervised Mr. Body and Mr. McAfee,
She still didn't even answer the judge. The judge told her to answer the question, then explain. She's going with these explanations first to avoid answering the question.
they didn't know who I was dating, but I can assure you I was dating somebody. So that I kept something private, that's my private life, is not any mystery to anyone. It's like a woman doesn't have the right to keep her private life private. And I'm speaking on this because there have been all these intimations.
You still haven't answered the question, Ms. Willis.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is there anyone else who knew about it? And then you can explain.
I don't know. I don't think so. I certainly didn't go out telling my business to the world.
Okay, so the best of your recollection, you didn't inform anyone on the prosecution team that the individual that you had chosen to lead the prosecution team had a personal relationship with you.
So
Is that correct?
That's inaccurate. Your question is inaccurate.
What?
Because you stated that the person I chose, we had a personal relationship. So we had a friendship. We have all these distinguishing factors. Remember, when I chose him in November of 21, first of all, let's get this straight. Mr. Wade was not actually my first choice. That's no insult to him.
Your Honor,
No,
I
it is
don't-
because of the way you phrased the question. You said, when I chose
Now I
him,
gotta tell
I
some
didn't
story.
inform people of a personal relationship. We have defined personal as romantic. It is an inaccurate way to state the question.
Then I will
as-
certainly restate it so it is very accurate.
Okay, and please do not yell at me.
You hired Mr. Wade for the first time on November 1st of 2021, correct?
November of 2021, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Your testimony is, whether one accepts it or not, your testimony is that at the time you hired Mr. Wade, there had never been a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade before you hired him, correct?
Yes, my testimony is that we were very good friends, but not, we're talking about sex, so let's just don't.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm saying romantic relationship doesn't necessarily have to be just sex.
Well,
It can
I
be
don't-
dating, it can be holding hands, it can be any of those things that one might call romantic. I'm asking you whether or not prior to November 1st of 2021, there was a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade. That's very simple. It's either a yes or a no.
I don't consider my relationship with him to be romantic before that. I'm not a hand holder, so no.
Now see what I tell you? So I don't consider, right? So not a yes or no, but I don't consider, and then she states because she's not a hand holder because he mentioned holding hands. So this way she can argue the fact that we didn't hold hands, so therefore it was not a romantic relationship.
That's fine. Now, let's move beyond November 1st of 2020,
Yeah.
2021, excuse me. If I understand your testimony, there was no romantic relationship with Mr. Wade until early in 2022, whether it be January or February or March, early in 2022, correct?
I would say sometime between February and April. Yes, sir.
All right. Now I'm asking you about that time period when it became romantic,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Thank you.
Okay. You didn't see the need, if I understand, to tell any of the people on the prosecution team when you had established a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade, that the lead prosecutor, that is the man that was basically giving orders to others, was dating or having a romantic relationship with you, correct?
I'm going to object to relevance at this point, Your Honor. It's not
Mr.
relevant.
Relevance.
Just to prove or attempting to show that there is an issue on the credibility about the relationship. The failure to have informed anyone on her team that she was having a romantic relationship with the lead prosecutor, I suggest gives rise to that inference. That's the relevance.
The inference that
The inference that they
See, she's trying to think, so she's listening, so she's trying to see like where he's going with this, so she can have an idea of how to, what explanation she
were concealing this because it was not as it's been characterized to the court, and that in fact it started earlier than what they say.
all right, overruled. Mr. Sadao.
So I just want to make sure that we're clear. From at least 2020, me and Mr. Wade were friends, at least that time period.
Okay, I'm not talking
Okay, so
about,
no, I want to be clear because my credibility is being evaluated here, right? We were friends. We hung out prior to November of 2021. In November of 2021, I hired him. I do not consider our relationship to have become romantic until early of 2022. Because I don't know a date and time, I'm saying sometime between February and April of 2022, and very early April of 2022, because I know that trip that I discussed with you was like the first week of 2022, that the relationship had become romantic.
Wait
I
a minute.
hope that answers your
That
question.
was the first week of 2022. So I'm sure y'all didn't go on no trip and no hanky panky was involved. Let me pull this back a little bit. See how they throw the truth in there and then smear it up so you may not have heard it.
was dating or having a romantic relationship with you, correct?
I'm going to object to relevance at this point, Your Honor. It's
Mr.
not
Sadao,
relevant.
relevance.
Just to prove or attempting to show that there is an issue on the credibility about the relationship. The failure to have informed anyone on her team that she was having a romantic relationship with the lead prosecutor, I suggest gives rise to that inference.
Yeah.
That's the relevance.
The inference that
that they were concealing this because it was not as it's been characterized to the court, and that in fact it started earlier than what they say.
all right, overruled. Mr. Seda.
I just want to make sure that we're clear. From at least 2020, me and Mr. Wade were friends, at least that time period.
Okay, I'm not talking
Okay,
about.
so no, I want to be clear because my credibility is being evaluated here, right? We were friends. We hung out prior to November of 2021. In November of 2021, I hired him. I do not consider our relationship to have become romantic until early of 2022. Because I don't know a date and time, I'm saying sometime between February and April of 2022, and very early April of 2022, because I know that trip that I discussed with you was like the first week of 2022.
The first week of 2022. So if they had a trip the first week of because it was New Year's. So that's a damn lie. You ain't go nowhere for no New Year's Eve, and you ain't did the thing. So if you saying it didn't happen until February or April, then what happened with your trip New Year's Eve? You know y'all was hitting it.
That the relationship had become romantic. I hope that answered your question, but I can't have it where
I hope that answered your question.
We're saying something differently.
All right, so you've established the timeline as you put it. The question originally was, at that time, did you tell any other prosecutors on the prosecution?
I never tell people at work who I'm dating.
All right, Mr. Seda.
Again, trying to make the person asking the question feel stupid. I never told anybody who I'm dating. Like, you know full well that this is improper.
Okay. Did you take any trips to DC with Mr. Wade?
Never.
Did you take, okay, so you have no, what I would call personal trips or business trips to DC with Mr. Wade?
I never went to DC with Mr. Wade, personal, business, otherwise, never.
Okay, so.
I've never been in the District of Columbia with Mr. Wade or Maryland, Virginia, the DMV as they call it.
So as I understand it, just to be clear, any trips that you would have taken to see DC
That was a pretty clear answer.
huh?
That was a pretty clear answer.
Asked him
She just said no.
twice.
So do you have a variation or something new to bring up?
I'll ask it and we'll see. Did you take trips to DC that were non-business during the time period that this case or this matter was under investigation?
I'm going to object as to relevance as it relates to the matter that we're here before Your Honor.
Well, again, the question already asked is take personal or business trips. She said
But that was with
personal
Mr.
or
Wade.
business.
That was with Mr. Wade. This I asked her alone whether she took.
Okay.
What's the
And
relevance?
what would be the relevance of that?
Trying to understand whether or not we have an ability to show a personal trip in which Mr. Wade is there at the same time. I understand her answer. Okay, I understand her answer, but we have documents, we have records that.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the documents, the things that.
Well, this could be something that's maybe not part of the record yet, but if he has I think there have been other things discussed in this case, and they have evidence that Mr. Wade may have been in DC at the same time. If you want to ask about that exact specific date, Mr. Sadon, you can do that.
I would reference to the court that was not asked of Mr. Wade. Anything about any trips to DC.
Sure. And so that's going to limit its merit and impact on credibility. So, Mr. Sadon, ask the question.
So
Whether, I understand your testimony is you never took a trip to DC with Mr. Wade,
that's correct.
personal or business.
That's correct.
Were you ever in DC at the same time as Mr. Wade?
I was not.
Personal or business?
No, me and Mr. Wade have not been to DC at the same time. However, since Mr. Wade has been on this case, he's been to DC. since Mr. Wade has been on to this case. I've been to DC. What has not happened is we have not been in the District of Columbia at the same time. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about with what you asked me is if I've been to DC personally, because I got a lot of personal friends in that area. But I know that I have been to DC. I did an interview at Howard University.
See that? Now he ain't asked none of this stuff. None of that. See, now she's going on with some stories so she can have an opportunity to talk and set the stage and then distract from the original question.
I went to DC for that. Seems like I've been to DC one other time. Oh, I went to DC for the Global Summit.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, those were two separate trips.
My next question is based on her opening the door, and therefore I'll just ask it and Your Honor can decide whether or not it's appropriate. When you went to DC, did you go to the White House?
I did not go to the White House.
No, well,
Apparently, I'm going to get the answer anyhow.
there you have it. Next question.
Okay. You indicated your best recollection was that your relationship with Mr. Wade, the romantic relationship, ended, you left it in August of 2023. That sound right?
That's the hard conversation. That's not the.
We've covered this. Next question.
And you characterize it as a tough conversation, correct?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into the conversation per
We
se.
should.
Well, if he doesn't want to, we won't go there. So, Mr. Sadon, next question.
You know, it's kind of hard to say no when you've got that opportunity. But all I'm going to say is, was it pre-indictment in this case?
So,
We know the timeline that the indictment was delivered.
Let me be
Well,
clear.
and so that we're
I'll give you
clear,
that.
the physical relationship ended pre-indictment.
And is that when you were talking about the tough conversation?
But I'm not sure that the tough conversation didn't happen until after, but the physical relationship. So I'm sure if you ask Mr. Wade, because he's a male, he would say we ended June or July because physical contact ended then. Just in my.
But if the physical relationship ended pre-indictment, how did you say it started after you hired him? She said that the relationship didn't get romantic until after November 2021, after she hired Mr. Wade. And now she's saying that the physical relationship ended pre-indictment.
Mind being a woman, it's over when you have that like hard conversation. I just think women and men think differently.
And I think the answer, Mr. Sadon, to your question was she's not sure whether it was before or after the indictment.
Well, I'm not sure that was her answer, but let's see if I can get specific.
That is what I said. That's what I said.
I'll let you. Next question, Mr. Sadon. If you need to
Want to say
clarify.
one more? The romantic relationship ended before the indictment was returned. Yes or no?
To a man, yes.
She just like, I'm not going to answer your question. To a man, yes. Right? So this way you can't corner me into a lie.
To a man, yes. To you, no.
She's explained this, Mr. Sadon. She's explained this.
And did the forthcoming indictment have anything to do with that? Or was it just a coincidence?
Let's go on and have the conversation.
I'm just asking you whether or not it was a
Had
coincidence.
absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have.
See, now she's trying to use the whole being a woman. You know, women are looked down upon, right? Mr. Wade told me this day. See, now she's trying to steer the conversation to paint herself as a victim again here.
Brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
No,
Sure.
but I'm sure we'll talk about it further.
No, we're not going to talk about it further.
All right, no back and forth. Let's stay down. Next question.
My next question is something that that has to do with what I characterize as the
jail
churches.
time. That's perjury. She should be facing consequences for lying in court. She should also be facing some tax evasion. Because she straight out admitted that she had thousands of dollars in cash, but did not pay the government. And you are a government official. You have an elected position. How can you owe taxes? I think they're going to be making examples out of these Black women. Her, along with that Mayor Tiffany Henyard, also as well. I think the FBI is investigating her. They allowed them to enough rope to hang themselves, and now it's time to go to to the go to the walk the plank.
Speech. Let me just tell you what the question is, because I know that's not something.
Preserve it for the record.
Huh?
You can preserve the question for the record, but then we'll move on.
That's correct. Thank you. When you gave what I've referred to as the Martin Luther King weekend church speech, you know what I'm referring to?
A great honor of mine. That's a historic African-American church. Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you have handwritten notes with you that you were reading from during the speech?
And on second thought, Mr. Sadov, because you might have a number of questions about this, why don't we just bullet point what you would want to cover on this, preserved for the record, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Okay.
Since I had laid out before that the forensic misconduct isn't a
So
subject
do
of the
I
evidentiary
not
hearing.
get an answer for that?
That's right.
Okay. Did you read your speech?
Well, no, Mr. Sadov, for everything related to any forensic.
Oh, you just want me to stay
misconduct,
out of it now?
We're just not, we can do it in a bullet form if you just want to cover what you would have asked, but it's not in a question and answer format.
Okay, so I should do that at this point or do it
Sure.
when you're ready?
We can do it right now, so it's fresh on.
I'm going to ask her about, did she prepare the speech?
See, look, now she is trying to listen to find out what the questions will be so she can formulate what the story to go to match his questions. Look at her face. She's listening.
Did she have notes on the speech? Did she read the speech? When did she do this? When did she write the speech? Who was she referring to when she was talking?
Because we heard today in his closing arguments, he went back to this and stated that she did have notes and that she was reading, right? See, like this here is old, but what we had saw earlier was today, the actual closing arguments live, real time. So now going back to this, it makes sense on this question that he's asking her here, where she's like, kind of digging her own hole per se.
Talking about others, who she referring to when she said they, who she was referring to when she spoke in terms of that is.
I would love to answer those questions.
Well, Ms. Willis, you could certainly do that in some other format, but for today, that's what we decided we're not going to cover.
Who was she talking about that was playing the race card, and why she didn't tell the people at the church that she had a personal / romantic relationship with the, all due respect, the way it was characterized, the black man that she was referring to, and was the black man she referring to, was that Mr. Wade?
Okay.
That's that area of inquiry.
Noted for the record, Mr. Sadov. Next topic.
Okay. I realize that you've testified that you have no records that with regard to cash payments,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Would your bank records reflect that you withdrew cash from your bank accounts during the time period of 2020, 2021, 2022, or 2023? I'm not asking you I'm just asking whether they would reflect that you withdrew cash from any of your bank accounts.
So the exact amounts?
No,
It-
but just
yeah, of
that you
course.
did.
See there? So the exact amount as opposed to yes or no.
Of course, I withdrew money throughout that time period, throughout my life. I withdrawn money from the bank. Yes, of course.
Talking about cash from, that is that you go to a
Cash,
bank
right.
or you go to an ATM
Cash.
and you take cash out.
Either that way, or you go to Publix and you overpay, or you go to another store and you overpay. So yes, both through that. Yes, of course they will reflect that at times.
Okay. And so those records, if we had them, would show that, correct?
That throughout the course of my life, I took out money.
I was very specific. I said
Yes, during the course of
2020.
that time period, I would have taken money out. Yes,
So do you have a problem with,
I absolutely. Yes,
you don't want the bank records to be made available for the court and the court
I'm
alone?
going to object as to the relevance, and this has already been addressed earlier as it relates to other records. This is an improper line of questioning. He's doing it for the purpose of harassment. Right, Your Honor.
I'm just going to sustain it on relevance. Mr. Sadow, if that's something you want to follow up privately, you can do that.
Last area, briefly.
yes, sir.
You had contact with Mr. Wade in the year 2020, correct?
Ooh, I had some contact with Mr. Wade.
Would you explain when you say some contact? Please tell us, talking about 2020.
I had some contact with Mr. Wade in 2020. One of the reasons your allegations are so preposterous on Ms. Merchants that you have joined is.
Ma'am,
No,
I didn't
no.
ask you about the allegations. I asked you about your contact. That's all I ask you. Okay? I appreciate that you want to say something, but I'm interested in, did you have contacts with Mr. Wade in 2020? And your answer so far has been yes, correct?
very limited contact because Mr. Wade had a form of cancer that makes your allegations somewhat ridiculous.
I do appreciate the
I'm not going
characterization.
to emasculate a black man, but I'm just telling you.
Wow, she went there. Emasculate a black man. Wow. Wow.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not going to emasculate a black man.
How?
Did you understand that?
All
I
right,
don't
let's
think
get
we should
back on
discuss
track.
further.
Mr. Sadow, next question.
Trying to, Your Honor. Would you tell us on the occasions in 2020 that you
He went there.
had contact with Mr. Wade?
I'm sorry. I thought I had answered that. Yes, sir. There were times in 2020 I had contact, but 2020 was a year I was running for office. It was a year that he was going through some serious medical issues, and I did not have much contact, but I certainly had contact with him in 2020.
Did you
It
go
wasn't-
out to eat with him?
Maybe, probably.
Did you visit him in any location, his office, or did he visit you in your office in 2020?
I am sure he, I'm sure, ooh, that's a very good question. I'm sure he came to 750 in 2020.
750 is,
Was my office.
Yeah, she
Okay.
was dropping the ball.
Not often, but maybe once or twice.
Yeah,
Maybe I went to his office once or
it's a
twice. but
distraction.
Maybe once.
and the
So we
purpose
can-
for going to his office
She's
would have
saying
been,
that stuff so we can have a little sympathy. Oh, he was battling cancer. Oh, wow. And you know, to distract from the truth.
what?
Maybe we would have went to Mellow Mushrooms for pizza, or maybe he would have come for lunch. I'm sure we went by each other's office though, but not often, not a lot.
Mm.
We both grinding, trying to make a
But
living.
wait, I understand what you've said about the cancer, and I'm not going into that. But when you were going out with him to restaurants, or when he would come to your office, right? Those were not sterile environments, were they?
Oh, very sterile because it
The
was
restaurants were sterile environments?
a lot of times we wouldn't eat there. We would pick up something and go in, but they were. You
I'm listening to you. You pick up and take it to where?
maybe eat at our office, but it did not happen much. That's what I'm trying to.
Oh, he called her up. Pick it up and take it in there. Listen to what she said. Let me just go back this a little bit.
office though, but not often, not a lot. We both grinding, trying to make a living.
I understand what you've said about the cancer, and I'm not going into that. But when you were going out with him to restaurants, or when he would come to your office, right? Those were not sterile environments, were they?
Oh, very sterile because it
The
was
restaurants were sterile environments?
a lot of times we wouldn't eat there. We would pick up something and go in, but
Pick up something and go in. Go in where? In the restaurant?
they were you
I'm listening to you. You pick up and take it to where?
maybe eat at our office, but it did not happen much. That's
Maybe eat at our office.
what I'm trying to explain to you. And my office in 2020, nobody was coming in. I was stir crazy, so I would still go into my office. If you remember, when I started this, I said, I am not even sure if we came to each other's offices, but I am trying to be over cautious. So I think I can recall him at 750 a couple of times. I just think I can recall him at 750 once, but let's say twice.
Yeah, they was doing the
I have seen his office. I remember all the awards in the lobby, but I'm not sure in 2020 I went. I'm not even sure I went in 2020 at all. I just want to tell you yes, because I'm not sure. But I have a distinct recollection of him at 750. I actually don't have a distinct recollection of me at his office in 2020, but maybe I went to his office in 2020, maybe.
Did you have ongoing phone conversations during 2020 with Mr. Wade?
Oh yeah, I talked to, yes, absolutely. Yes,
Yes, no question about that.
no question. I talked to him on the phone in 2020.
I understood, and this is, maybe I was confused. The Belize trip was for
His 50th birthday.
his 50th birthday, and that was in
March. He turned 50 March 18th of 2023. If you look at the dates of the trip, I think we were there about 6 days. We stayed at 2 different locations.
and you paid for it.
100%. He said, not only, I paid for the hotel, I paid for the flights, I had a birthday luncheon for him, I paid for massages, I paid for everything.
And would those payments be reflected on your
I
credit
paid for the
card?
cash,
You paid them in cash?
cabs. I was telling you all the different things.
I'm asking you whether or not those payments would be reflected on credit card bills of yours.
So there was about $500 that I think is reflected on a debit card. What my recollection is, I took about 4 in cash with me today.
400 or 4,000?
4,000. But I remember I handed him 2,500, and then the rest was just the money we spent. I probably gave $300 or $400 to this guy who was a taxi driver. He would drive.
Wow. Okay, so if you paid for everything, why did you give him $2,500? You paid for everything.
Drive us every day around the 2 or 3 days we went. Took him to eat like it was my trip money.
And you had, to be clear, to end this up, the 4,000 that you've just told us.
But I didn't give it all to him. Remember, I only gave the 2,500 to him.
I didn't ask you that. I was going to ask you that 4,000 is part of your, my words, cash hoard that you had collected over time.
Cash what?
Hoard, HORDE.
Oh, I thought you said something different, sir.
No, I'm afraid I wouldn't say that.
Um,
Any circumstances.
Yeah.
You or in
All right,
court.
back on track.
Hoard, cash hoard.
I would not classify it in that way, but I have money at my house. Yes, sir.
And the money, when you had money at your house,
I'm speaking too loosely. I had money wherever I was staying. So I was not referring to my house in 750. I'm saying I had money wherever I was laying my head.
Just said,
Yes,
first
sir.
she said he wasn't at her house. So 750 is the address to her house. She said back here, he was there.
Of the reasons your allegations are so preposterous or Miss Merchant. I am sure ooh, that's a very good question. I'm sure he came to 750 in 2020.
Wow,
750
you
is-
see that? When Earl earlier she was absolutely, he did not come there. And see, she keeps switching it up, calling it 750. First, she called it her home in whatever city it was. And now she's switching it up to identify it with a different name to distract people, because I just called it. 750 is the address to her home. And here clearly states 2020, he was there. Line.
My office.
Okay.
Not often, but maybe once or twice. Maybe I went to his office once or twice, but maybe once.
And the purpose for going to his office would have been what?
Maybe we would have went to Mellow Mushrooms for pizza, or maybe he would have come for lunch. I'm sure we went by each other's office though, but not often, not a lot. We both grinding, trying to make a living.
I understand what you've said about the cancer, and I'm not going into that. But when you were going out with him to restaurants, or when he would come to your office, be reflected on your credit card?
Cash.
You paid him in cash?
Cabs. I was telling you all the different things.
I'm asking you whether or not those payments would be reflected on credit card bills of yours.
So there was about $500 that I think is reflected on a debit card. What my recollection is, I took about $4 in cash with me today.
400 or 4,000?
4,000. But I remember I handed him $2,500, and then the rest was just the money we spent. I probably gave $300 or $400 to this guy who was a taxi.
See there with these little extra details, don't forget I had handed him, $2,500. But just 2 breaths ago, you said you paid for everything. And before that, you said you reimbursed him. So if you pay for everything, why are you giving him money?
Driver, he would drive us every day around the 2 or 3 days we went. Took him to eat like it was my trip money.
And you had, to be clear, to end this up, the 4,000 that you've just told us.
But I didn't give it all to him. Remember, I only gave the $2,500 to him.
I didn't ask you that. I was going to ask you that 4,000 is part of your, my words, cash hoard that you had collected over time.
Cash what?
Hoard, HORDE.
Oh, I thought you said something different, sir.
No, I'm afraid I wouldn't say that. Any circumstances to you or in
All
court.
right, back on track.
The hoard, cash hoard debt.
I would not classify it in that way, but I have money at my house. Yes, sir.
And the money, when you had money at your house,
I'm speaking too loosely. I had money wherever I was staying. So I was not referring to my house in 750. I'm saying I had money wherever I was laying my head.
So she just clarified that 750 is her house.
Yes, sir. That was my fault that I wasn't clear.
so when you were at what we said the Yerty condo during the time period we've always discussed,
Brought the money there.
that's where you would keep your cash.
When I stayed there, yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, I want to see if we can get through a few more defense counsel if possible before breaking for today.
All right, so we're gonna
Mr. Stock.
stop it there. And I'll be keeping posted up on his stuff too. So but I'm just grateful that I got an opportunity to see this live closing today, because it really makes, I've been watching this here video of her with these lies and stuff, and also Mr. Wade's testimony and his attorney or ex-attorney, ex-partner testimony and stuff, to see these lies. And then also the ones, like how he wasn't trying to tell the story. It was almost like, he was being intimidated. You see here. Balance says, does HIPAA apply in court? Oh, because of his medical stuff? That's a good question. Yes, I believe so. That's a good point, Balance. That's a great point. Yeah, because she told his diagnosis and all of that attached to his name. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, she's guilty of multiple crimes here. Multiple crimes, just like that Tiffany Hanger, mayor is too. She's done run amok on these people and stuff. And so I'm gonna be talking about these things too in the future, because this is the reasons, a lot of the reason why people say these negative things about Black women and stuff, blaming the Black woman for all these things. It's because of the few wicked ones like this. That's why I always say that you can't say that all women are good and all men are bad, because there's this evil, wicked spirit. Let me just show her face up here. Oh, that's too small. I want to look like that. There we go. This evil spirit exists in men and women. And you have to be careful of women like this, because she is very dangerous. She's very dangerous because she is representing, Black women, but she's not right. She's not right. Anyway, so we're going to be talking more about that, and again, showing these obvious cues on when folks is telling lies, stuff like that. And it's to show y'all how these Black people are using these talking points to emotionally manipulate Black people into voting for her, voting for them, when they play that race card and stuff like that, because she was voted into this position the same as the Tiffany Henyard lady also voted in too. So, Black people, I just want us to wake up and recognize that the people that are keeping the chains of the bondage on you are a lot of times these Black people, these Black Democrats. They're just, totally making us a laughing stock, or making y'all a laughing stock. Anyway, so thank y'all so much for tuning in, and I'll see y'all in. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Balance, for hanging in here too, and all your comments and stuff too. All right. See y'all in another video. Peace and love.